My biggest fear as a Christian is that I'm not following God correctly. I'll give you a little background to help you better understand that. But before I do, I don't think that we ever consider being scared of God, or rather having fear of Him. It's the idea that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, but a fool despises understanding and rebuke. See, I think we're supposed to have a healthy amount of, we might call it more respect, but fear of the Lord. I mean, He did create everything. He has the power to do anything. And for us to think that we're following Him perfectly would be foolishness, in my opinion. In fact, it's one of the biggest reasons that it's a challenge for me, or something that I pray and think about often, is because I was raised in a Christian household. I go to church where my mom does, and I don't want to just be following into the patterns of what I was raised in. I want to be following God rightly and purely. It's a big thing that I think about quite often. And someone else that I think spent time thinking about this in the Bible was the Prophet Amos. And he's really neat. It's someone that I'd never really hear preached on. He's what we'd classify as a minor prophet, but what he did was not minor. He was actually a farmer, a nobody from Judah during the time where Judah and Israel had a civil war. He went up to Israel and he prophesied against not only the people there, but specifically the king of the time, which he could have been killed for doing. And this is what he says in Amos 6:8. It says, "The sovereign Lord has sworn by His own name. That is what He, the Lord, the God of heaven armies, says. I despise the arrogance of Israel." And why is he saying this? You see, during this time, the king of Israel was not a good man. He was claiming to follow God, but he was doing things that the Lord specifically told him not to do. And furthermore, this caused him to be arrogant. And I think this is something that I've done in my life, just doing things that I think feel right, but obviously are not. One of the ways that I was challenged by this recently is I was actually in Sequoia National Park, which is a park in California in the United States. It has some of the largest trees in the world. They were very breathtaking. And as I was walking through the park, someone shouted at me. It wasn't really a shout, but more of a, "Hey." I walked over to his table and he said, "Do you want a free book on meditation?" And I thought, well, I don't really read books. Actually, the only book I read is the Bible. I listen to a lot of books. And I asked him, would there be an audio version of it? And he told me there wasn't. And so we just started talking a little bit. And he called himself a monk. He didn't really give me the religion that he followed. He said he didn't want to put labels on it, but it was something that was based in India 5,000 to 10,000 years ago, and he's just kind of following it because it makes him feel good. And he really didn't want to have a discussion with me because Christians had hurt him so bad in the past, making him feel belittled, which is terrible. We should not be doing that in evangelism, but that's not my point. My point is that when we're following God without logic, when we're just following Him on our emotions, we'll do things that don't even seem right. Why would you follow a God that has no proof of His existence? A book that you can't even determine whether it was written 5,000 or 10,000 years ago, when you're doing something only because it makes you feel good. Oftentimes the best things that we do in life don't make us feel good at all. One example of this is when Amos was actually prophesying against the king. He said this in Amos 7:11. He is saying Jeroboam will soon be killed and the people of Israel will be sent away into exile, that he is God. Then Amaziah sent orders to Amos, "Get out of here, you prophet. Go back to the land of Judah and earn your living prophesying there." The king's servant comes out to Amos because he's prophesying in a way that he doesn't like and just tells him, go back to where you're from, earn your living prophesying there. And whenever that servant realized that Amos wasn't actually not a prophet in Judah, which was something they did to make money in those times, but instead he was just a farmer, he was kind of taken back by it. He was shocked that a man would be doing this for free. And that's because Amos was doing what was right. And a lot of that times when you do what's right, it doesn't feel good at the time. I don't want to be like the king of Israel, Jeroboam, during this time, who was doing good in his own eyes but evil in God's. Instead, my goal in life is to humbly follow the Lord and how He wants to be worshipped, and remember that I don't need to have fear because, as it says in John 1, chapter 4, verse 8, that perfect love casts out all fear. So thanks so much for watching this video. I'd love to hear about your biggest fear when it comes to following God. If you want to leave a comment on this video, I'll be sure to respond to it, and we can begin to have that sort of discussion. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a like on this video. It really does help. And I'll see you back here later as we continue to read through Scripture together.